Hello. This video might be very sloppy because I don't want to respawn all this stuff a bunch of times as I refine this video down to a much better state, so you're just going to have to bear with me. But I want to talk about why the Purge Staff is absolutely the best weapon in the entire game. I'm going to silently do this little combat demonstration, then we're going to talk about it. Okay, let's go. Yeah, that's fine. I don't care. Just give me all my toughness back immediately. Because that's how Purge Staff works on the Psyker. I don't care about taking all this damage. I have a Purge Staff and unlimited crowd control. There are people who actually say this isn't the best weapon in the game. Okay, I think you get the idea, yeah? Alright, yeah, let's talk about this now. So, that honestly just showed off just about everything in a quick, like, 30-second display. Alright, so let's talk about why that all just worked and everything that just happened right there. Because a lot of mechanics just work together to make what is so obviously the best item in the game. It's insane to me that there's even a conversation about nerfing anything else, and this thing isn't at the top of it. Okay, so, the Purge Staff. Let's start with the beginning. Before we talk about anything else, let's talk about how Soul Blaze actually works. Because this is key to understanding everything. Give me a bulwark. Where is a bulwark? Real quick, let me just grab a bulwark. Okay, now I can explain to you why this is so good. So, let's talk about how Soul Blaze works as a mechanic very fast, and then let's go from there. So let's take this off real quick, just so it doesn't fudge up our damage calculations. So, you may think that every stack of a dot just adds the damage on itself. Wrong. Dots stack kind of like half linearly, half exponentially in this game. It's something like the root of it adds to it. It's complicated math when I last saw the equation, but the way I know it works is the difference between 4 stacks and like 8 stacks is not the same as if you just had 2 instances of 4 stacks. It's like that plus double. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. You see, one stack does 2 damage, 2 stacks does 5 damage, 3 stacks does 11. So you can already see it's adding more than the previous stack. So this means, also, Soul Blaze just kind of ticks that stack damage all the way through for some reason. But let's just go all the way up to, like, peak stacks here. And now you can see we're getting 221 damage. Well, if we use our ultimate, that skyrockets up to 324 damage because the ultimate adds 6 stacks over cap. So, now let's add a rending stim for reference. Let's just do the same thing, but let's add a rending stim. And now we're doing 393 damage. But wait, there's even more. So you may notice that this staff is flak carapace, which those guys are unyielding. So I could get 25% more damage by having the right damage perk on, but I can also get 40% universal damage from Blaze Away. Now, let's take a look at this. Although this is, like, incredibly hard to show off on just one guy, if I want to show the rending stim as well, so we're probably just not going to do that. Look, and now we're ticking for 400 damage. Blaze Away makes the staff do more damage than a red stim. So a red stim pushes up into like the 550, 600 damage range. So this dot deals, to put this into perspective, by the way, just to give you some perspective on how much damage that is, Dueling Sword headshot on a bulwark is like 850 damage. Before you get into like any kind of like skill tree bonuses or blessings or perks, just default damage of a like headshot finesse stabby weapon is on par with the AoE infinite penetration dot that never stops ticking damage on 50 targets at the same time. It's equal to like one of these without like before perks and shit. Okay, so now let's talk about something else. Why is it so good versus armor? And this has to do with two facets. One, the penetrating flame blessing, which is getting its own video because it's not that good and it requires a little bit of like, I'm going to have to talk about it in depth in its own dedicated video, but for the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to need it. So First off, this is bugged. This doesn't actually work. But if this did work, it would just be 10% more rending on top of this 20%, on top of the 20% from the stim. So let me just show you what this is like on an armored enemy. Because you would assume that armored enemies are like the big things that hold this back. Well, as you can see, not really. It absolutely chunks armor as well, with like 156 damage per second. And mind you, we could get 10% more rending, which would push this into like 180 territory. Okay, so now you understand how Soul Blaze works. Let's talk about something else. I want to talk about the crowd control on this. So you can see it doesn't really stagger crushers too well. That is what this is for. So you have an unlimited number of these venting shrieks to spam. So that staggers crushers, bulwarks, etc. But how about something that's not a bulwark? Or I'm sorry, not a crusher. You know, like all of this shit, you know, there can be a million of this shit. This is objectively better crowd control than Trauma Staff on everything that, like, isn't a, is not an Ogren. And for Ogrens, you can always use this. Okay, now let's talk about that and why you should absolutely dump warp resistance and never, ever, ever take warp res. Okay, so for this to work, if an enemy has Soul Blaze on them, if they die, you just get a 10% chance immediately to get your stack back. You don't have to kill them. Your teammates can kill them as well. So this leads to a situation where if there's a horde and you just do this and put one stack on them, as you saw in my gameplay demonstration, between the elites ticking down with the dot, the trash mobs that are dying to yourself and teammates giving you it, you will always get maximum stacks. And if I just spawn like a bajillion guys here real quick to try and simulate a horde, if we do this, and just look at how quick these guys die, by the way. And this is without unarmored damage. So just with 3, we go down to 17 seconds. With all 5, you go down to 12 seconds. And then, because you're Psyker with Psychonetics Aura, every time you kill an elite or specialist, you take another second off. So if you try, even with 20% warp resistance, you will never have enough peril to maintain your high peril damage bonuses and be able to spam this to keep building stacks past the cap. So Venting Shriek gives you unlimited CC like every 10 to 5 seconds. It basically doubles your damage on everything. And you have a shit ton of sources of rending to get around armor. And everything that's not like a super bulky enemy, you can just endlessly stunlock it with this. Okay, now the final thing I want to talk about is all this shit. So, Metal, Soul Stealer, Quietude, and Warp Expenditure. So, as you saw in that clip, people will tell you Psyker doesn't have toughness regen or like Dueling Sword is balanced because Psyker is squishy. I'm sorry, guys, but you are silly billies. You do not understand how to play this class if you think that. That may sound harsh, but it's just objectively true. So every person that dies from your dot, which, by the way, the dot does enough damage in one tick to instantly kill trash mobs. So let's just think about this. Everything that dies, and things die in one tick, gives you 7.5 toughness back. Every time you quell peril, sorry, the mic's in a bit of a bad spot. I just noticed it was peaking there. I'm getting real excited because I love talking about this because this item is super good and it's actually a lot of fun to play with. Quietude replenishes your toughness every time you do this. Every time you press this button, it's like 25, like 50-ish% peril. I forget the exact number off the top of my head, sorry. So that's like 25% peril every time. And then, because you never have to stop to quell, you never stop generating toughness. You never stop instantly quelling huge amounts of toughness. And you never stop getting crits because the crit stacks are constantly ticking. So you're getting, every second, you're genuinely, I mean, you saw in that gameplay clip, I was literally getting, like, think about that. I would literally lose 150 toughness and get it back the next second. That's not like cheat codes or anything. It's just how the staff works. So you also get you get 15% damage here. You get 20% damage here, and then you get 40% damage here. Then you add Rending Stim to get another 25% damage, and then you get 25% damage from your perks. So that doubles the dot's damage, and then adding this doubles the dot's damage again. So, yeah, I think you can see just how insane this staff can get. Oh, also, every single crit tick from all those little dots is proccing empathetic invasion, however the fuck you pronounce this. So, every single time you see this staff, like, get a crit, which each crit chance is, like, rolled independently on all these enemies. Like, anytime this would get a crit, which, by the way, I want to point out, so you see those gold numbers? Every time that happens, that's a crit. And this is something that I want to talk about before finishing off. I'm using Penetrating Flame and, like, Carapace for demonstration purposes. But in this, a lot of people run the staff like this. And I'd like to talk about why, because this is just the better way to run the staff. So let me get a bunch of enemies now. Now that I'm running the proper staff setup. Look at how many more crits I'm getting. Just adding Warp Nexus alone, like, literally quadruples your crit output. Now, all of those crits, each of those crits procs metal and perfect timing. So it's giving me constant move speed, which on top of this stagger and this stagger, nothing can reach me. I get more toughness than any other class, and this throws out damage. This is what makes the staff completely overpowered, by the way. It has a 16-meter radius. Look at this. You can hit. It also punches through everything. You just do this and then maintain all your damage, and, like, look at how fast things just start falling over. Purge Staff Psyker, and then look, 9-second cooldown on the ultimate. I literally couldn't build 50% peril in 9 seconds, even if I wanted to, and that's with purposely stopping the empower on my weapon early to have way under cap warp resistance. But yeah, I hope this clears it up. This staff is so obviously the most overpowered weapon in the game that it's oh yeah, here's something else. If you're just if you somehow aren't convinced yet, I want to talk about this. Let's put a bulwark here. Fuck. And let's put like a guy, like, you know, right here. Fuck. Come on. Yeah. It like punches through, as you can see. It like punches through and then puts it on, even if I put a guy behind 2 bulwarks. So this staff has literally unlimited punch through. So nothing can stop it. Nothing can block it. It deals anywhere from like 250 to 600 damage per tick. It generates literally like 300 toughness a second. It gives you enough warp charges and cooldown to infinitely spam the cooldown ultimate. I firmly believe, with no exaggeration, that this staff is the single most overpowered item in the history of Darktide. Nothing else is anywhere close to the level of this thing. It has S+ tier crowd control between this and the Boosh. It has S++++, SSS++++ horde clear, with being able to literally kill 1,000 horde members in like a second. It is like SS++ horde, or I'm sorry, elite clear, by the fact that if there's 30 elites stacked up and you just do like this for a second, you know, they're just dead. It has so many positives working for it that it's honestly hard to fully explain. This is one of those staffs where a truly great player with this staff will top every leaderboard in every lobby, and the game will not even feel like you're playing the same game anymore. It is insanity how good this staff is. Okay, I think that's just about everything. Oh, I'm sure someone like Beef or Dot or someone will fucking kill me if I got anything wrong in this video in the comments.